Welcome back to the Revolution of Being podcast with Angie and Jess. And today we are going to continue our conversation on just this whole body approach to wellness, happiness, all things that are going to fuel your life, your well-being, your success. So today we want to talk a little bit about the anti-inflammatory lifestyle. So we're going to talk about those important things like sleep, movement, your circadian rhythm. What is all this? Why does it matter? Why do you need to know about it? So in this episode, we're going to talk about why you're not going to be able to supplement your way out of a lifestyle that's burning you out. There's no silver bullet. We mentioned this in the last episode that if you think that you're going to find that supplement on TikTok shop or anywhere else that's going to do this work for you, that's going to be a really tough awakening for you. It's not going to do it. True healing is going to happen in a rhythm. It's going to be with your body, your environment, and the natural cycles of day and night. We have sunlight, we have darkness, and there's something to that within our body. There's something to that within nature. And so we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about how to reset those rhythms so that your inflammation can finally just kind of slow down and settle down. So with this, just to really understand that most people chasing healing are doing more. They're just doing more. They're doing more workouts, more supplements, more biohacks. Angie and I talk about it. Like there's a place for this stuff, but we get really frustrated with this industry that keeps like shoving more and more down, and it creates more stress, more anxiety. But what if the thing your body actually needs is less force and more rhythm? What if the missing piece isn't a pill? What if it's just a walk at sunrise, or maybe going to bed a little earlier when the sun sets? Maybe gentle movement that really honors your nervous system. What if that's the key? So, Angie, take it away. Let's start talking about this. Is so good.
So good. And it's stuff that you and I have studied so much and lived ourselves and trialed and erred and all this stuff. So, what I didn't realize was that our lifestyles are inflammatory. This is a time where we are exposed to so many toxins and chemicals like never before. But also, as we said in the last episode, like a crazy amount of stimulation that we've never, ever, ever had. And so all these things matter. And again, there's no silver bullet. So there's no like you get the right air purifier and your life's fixed. You do the right detox protocol or fast and you're fixed. It's really putting together these pieces of a puzzle. And for you and I, our puzzles have looked differently, but there's some parallel. And for the listeners, you're going to have your own puzzle that you get to learn how to find the right pieces for. So, inflammation, as I said, is not just about our food and toxins. There's a heavy emphasis of that within the biohack world because these mofos want to sell you their product, their protocol, their process, really with this understanding like this is the quick fix for you. And everything now, like I love to tell my clients this, there's no Amazon priming your healing. There's not just the one thing that's going to do it for you. And even me, like hypnosis is not the one quick fix to your problems. I integrate a lot of other conversations because you're probably going to want to work with other providers as you go, or even just get other information for your specific case. Now, again, I'm a big believer that mind sets the foundation, and nervous system regulation is a huge foundation for all of this. But there's a lot of things that really kind of have to come together for this. So, as you mentioned, the body has a biological rhythm and it's rooted in kind of light movement. Some of the things that we think of our ancestors doing, right? They were hunter gatherers. They had natural walking throughout the day because they were foraging for food. They would go to bed when the sun set. They would wake up when the sun would start to rise. They were in sync with nature. And before we had the Gregorian calendar, they were in sync with the moon cycle. Think about the woman's cycle, y'all, 28 days, which follows the moon cycle. And so now we have this calendar that's 30 to 31 days to 28 days, whatever. And it keeps us so out of the rhythm of what we're meant to be really kind of cycling with. So within that, when we disrupt that rhythm, as mentioned, you begin to elevate your cortisol. because now we're going to bed at midnight. We're waking up at 7 when the sun's already been up for an hour or two. We are overstimulated because we can be on our computers at night working or doing things our ancestors wouldn't have done back in the day. And all these things really kind of disrupt the body, including, like I said, the cortisol can elevate, our blood sugar can spike because we're just not necessarily following the rhythm of even the hunter gatherer. We eat when we can, we feast and fast. We kind of really got away from just not having food all the time. Now we have food everywhere and we can eat whenever we want to. We can kind of like eat ultra processed food because it holds forever. That also leads to poor gut repair. We're ingesting things. We are exposed to things. We are, mentally exposed to things that totally disrupt our gut microbiome also. And then also, as mentioned, all of this leads to immune dysregulation. So I don't know that our ancestors ever had autoimmunity. I don't think peanut allergies existed until modern lifestyle. Maybe bee allergies, but like those were things of nature. But also, why is our body hyperreactive? Because we are constantly living in this like elevated state of stimulation where we can't just be. And so, if you're like me, I lived that 24/7 fast-paced lifestyle where I was slamming coffees to fuel my day. I didn't sleep enough. That's a lot of people. We rest for a couple hours because we got stuff to do, or so we perceive that we do. All of that is really leading to elevated states of inflammation. And as we said in the last episode, healing is not about willpower. You can't willpower your way through and do enough to heal. You have to be. And so it's really about realigning with the body's design, but also aligning with nature.
Yeah, and yourself. It's that come back to you kind of a thing, which we've been taught we're separate from all of the things within ourselves. So, one of the first ones we're going to talk about is sleep. Sleep is one of the most important anti-inflammatory tools that we have on the market. And guess what? By all intents and purposes, it's free. So, when we talk about what you can do for yourself, don't underestimate the power of sleep. Now, what I think is funny is in this last year, I've done a lot of deep work. Angie's been there right alongside me, and I'm watching my rhythm of my body change. When the sun goes down, I'm out for the count. Like it's bedtime. I'm feeling bedtime by 8 p.m. right now, and it's July, right? And my body is like, "Hey, guess what? It's 5. It's 4:30. You're up." I'm feeling this rhythm with the sunset, sunrise. And I do think that is because I'm getting more in sync with my own rhythm. So, what happens during sleep? During deep sleep. So, we're talking about that where we're really getting into the rest part, that deep sleep. The brain detoxes via the glymphatic system. Our brain is one of our detox pathways. It's really important, and a lot of people don't talk about that. There's some very important things that occur with the brain that equal longevity. So we want our brain to get into that place where it can just kind of let go and breathe. The gut regenerates. We're resting. So guess what? We're digesting. I like not every day, but this is a part of being in tune with your body. Sometimes right before bed, maybe if I plan to go to bed at 9, it might be 8:30. If I plan to go to bed at 10, it might be 9:30. I will have a lean protein with a very healthy carb. And it helps my body get very restored throughout the night. So there's this gut regeneration that happens. And going to bed too hungry, going to bed too full will stop that process. So the deep sleep helps that. Hormones are balanced. So when we get to that deep sleep, we're getting out of that cortisol roller coaster. Hopefully, we've had that and we're into this nice flat cortisol area for our sleep. Melatonin. We produce more melatonin before midnight, which is why going to bed earlier is important. Melatonin is very healing for the body. There was a lot of melatonin talk during the 2020 crisis But again, why was it hitting our older population so much more? There is a decrease in melatonin as we age. So if we prioritize our sleep at a reasonable time, we're going to naturally create more melatonin and be able to do some more healing when we produce more growth hormones. So those are really important. So poor sleep equals higher CRP. That's an inflammatory marker. And it's what we're going to measure to find out really where our future with disease is. If we keep that CRP high, we have much greater risk of cardiovascular disease and things like that. So really important to know that. Blood sugar dysregulation, autoimmunity flares. So if you've ever noticed after, maybe especially when I was younger, we'd party all weekend. And that's what we did. We were in our 20s, maybe our early 30s. It's like we went out on the weekends. And I would notice that like I would eat really, really bad for a window of time right after that because my blood sugar was all over the place because my sleep got impacted so hard. So I notice if I don't sleep well, I'm like a really hangry toddler. And I know it's my blood sugar. I know it is. So here are some signs of poor sleep quality, even if you're in bed 8 hours. Okay, so we're talking about quality, not quantity. We need the quality. So waking at 3 a.m. once, okay, I was up this morning at 3:47. I was like, oh, it's not quite 3 a.m., but it was close. But that's a good sign that your liver's doing some stuff, cortisol, right? So pay attention if that's consistent for you. Your cortisol is probably rising in the middle of the night and your liver is a little bogged down. Very big signs. And it's very common. They call it the witching hour. But again, I think it's so common that there is a biological reason why. Racing thoughts. That one will keep you stirring. So you wake up because you have to go to the bathroom or whatever, and you can't fall back asleep. Or you lay down to go to bed and everything in your mind is stirring. That's really tough. Restless legs. Fidgety, fidgety, fidgety. I feel bad for you if you have a partner who's fidgety and you're not fidgety, but the restless legs, it's sometimes like a little skin crawling. It's just that your muscles are still in motion. Again, it's a really good sign that you're not getting great sleep. Vivid or disturbing dreams. Now, I think good dreams are great, but if I'm having a lot of anxiety provoking dreams, it's definitely not giving me the rest that I need. I wake up and I'm like, man, I did sleep 8 hours, but I feel like I worked through my 8 hours. I'm now more tired than when I went to bed. So, why consistent sleep wake times matter more than just getting enough sleep? Because the why is if you don't go to sleep at the same time and wake at the same time, your body can't be in a rhythm. The rhythm is the key. We want to get into a rhythm. And Angie mentioned it. There's cycles to everything. Our moon cycles. Heck, parasite breeding cycles are on a moon cycle. We go through cycles within our bodies, just like the moon and the earth go through it. And we watch animals go through it. Nature goes through it. Flowers, plants, they all go through cycles. I think a great example of that, just go for a walk in nature and go during the day and you'll see all the flowers really opened and bloomed. But if you go in the evening, you're going to see them all closed up. We are part of the cycle. So this belief that we're not is crazy. Sleep hygiene. So if we are starting to go, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not getting the best sleep. What can I do about it? Now, I'm not saying take Ambien or do any of that stuff, but here are a few things. 1 hour before bed, limit or remove any of your screen time, or at least get your blue blockers, the good kind that are worth their money. If you're getting them on Amazon, most of them are junk. We've talked about that. But really, if you can just shut the TV off, if you can shut the noise off, go do some breath work, stretch, go sit outside, watch the sunset, do something, but get off that blue light. Magnesium, glycine. herbal teas, things like lemon balm or chamomile, both very calming. I really love lemon balm. It's really, really, really good. I'll throw that into even an evening smoothie just because it super calms my body. Magnesium, most of us are deficient. If you're a woman watching this, I would say, especially during certain parts of your hormonal cycle, you're going to need more. But I always find I get the best rest when I use magnesium. I actually like topical. I use a spray that's got some essential oils in it. If it burns, you're deficient. Cold, dark, quiet sleep environment. My bedroom is an ice box and I like a lot of blankets. So that's how I sleep the best. I get the deepest, most restorative sleep and I keep it dark. I like a little white noise. I have a little purifier in my room. I have a fan going. I like it just dark and cold. Use blue light blockers and red light in the evening. Um, you could go that far if you wanted to. Some people will actually put like red bulbs in nighttime lights and they'll use that versus, turning on their daytime lights. I think what's really tricky now is the exposure to LED and things like that has increased because our prior presidential election put incandescents out of the market. And so we weren't really able, I bought up as many as I could, but um, I didn't want LEDs in my house. So, now we're thinking about that a little bit too. So if you want to put the red lights in, it helps minimize the blue light, but I just try to keep the lights off. I just try to keep my lights low. Sunrise exposure within 30 minutes of waking, that helps to reset our melatonin. So when we can get up in the morning and like Angie said, just go outside and just be with the sun for a minute. It's much harder in the winter, so let's all just take advantage of the warmer months. It's harder when, you maybe live in a rainy climate, but just getting out there and getting that sun. That's why I do yoga in the sunshine as often as I can. Even if some mornings I just lay there. I just lay there on my yoga mat and just let the sun be on me, or I'll drink coffee on my porch. But getting that really early will help the chemical response to create these hormones and things within your body to help this rhythm. So if your sleep is sick, your healing is not going to stay. We need to really address sleep. So that's number one for me. So Angie, can you talk about the next one?
Yeah. So, and I think sleep is always such a tough one too, right? When I was going through the throes of it, I'm like, I know what to do. It's just not happening. But that's where it's like, you have to think bigger, like what are the contributors that are making sleep difficult for you? And a lot of us know all the air quote right things and it still doesn't work. And so that's where you have to look at like what other aspects of my life are contributing to poor sleep, because that does include what I'm going to talk about now, which is exercise. So there used to be this, I mean, we're not that removed from it, but the HIT workout revolution fucked my hormones so bad. And I mean, I would do a 30-minute Shanti HIT workout, which those are really fun, by the way. But I would do a 30-minute HIT workout followed by a 5K, 3-mile run most days of the week. That was way too much for my body, but I could tolerate it in my mid 30s. I could still do it. And I just thought, because I can do it, it's not causing problems. I feel good, whatever. In that time, I had sleep problems. I had no idea it was related to over exercising. And so we really are learning a lot more about how, HIT workouts, especially for women, are not great. Now, there's different variations of that, or maybe you do like 20 seconds on, a minute off. Those are a little less intense than what I was doing, which was back to back to back exercises, just changing the movement. Um, but when you have, when you're having a flare of symptoms, or if you're having trouble sleeping, intense exercise is probably not what you need. And that goes counter to everything people will tell you, because they're like, oh, exercise helps you sleep. Yes. But if you're in a frail state where you're having autoimmune symptoms or something else is coming up, you probably don't need intense workouts. Yes, strength training is excellent. Love it. I'm a huge fan of that at this point. I've had to really shift my identity around that. But even when I've been in flares, I really struggle to tolerate strength training, and I can only do it maybe 2 or 3 days a week. And that's really all any of us need. We don't need to overtrain. And I think we were also bought this myth that in order to lose weight, to sustain muscle mass, or whatever, we had to work out 5 to 7 days a week. That's completely false. And, we're finding that that's such bad information, again, especially for women. So intense exercise does create more inflammation. And that was my problem, was I was having liver pain when I was doing more intense workout. This was just a few months ago. Like my body was trying to detox and do all this stuff, but I was creating such a big load of inflammation in my system that it was creating liver pain, 3 a.m. wake times, restless sleep, all the things that you spoke to. And so if our cortisol is high, those kind of things just make it so much worse for us. So again, over exercising, like what I caught myself doing, was leading to hormone disruption. It messed up my circadian rhythms. It walked out my melatonin, my testosterone, my estrogen, all those things were funky. And the other thing too that I found just astronomically interesting was that over exercising can cause increased intestinal permeability, aka leaky gut. So it's not necessarily healing for you. You're forcing your body to process a lot more stuff than it can handle, and it's creating those gaps and those tight junctions within your gut wall. So, exercise is not inherently good in that respect if you're already in a fragile state. So it can also create, as I said, more oxidative stress. So my liver felt it. Even though I was castor oil packing, I was sauna, blanketing, I was doing all the other things to support detox, it was still way too much for my system. And then, what I noticed too, and this is a big sign that you're over exercising, is that you exercise, you feel good, and then a few hours later you crash. Typically when you exercise and it's aligned and sustainable, you pretty much have good energy the rest of the day, and you feel good, you sleep well. Well, what I noticed was I would exercise, and then within an hour or two, I would just like just crash. I would get so tired. I would need more coffee, whatever. And that's a sign that it was not working for me. I'd overstressed my body. So, and again, these things are temporary. If you support your body in the right way, you can get back to exercising in a way that's aligned, but you want to modify it. I'm not going to go back to the daily exercising. That was not what my system wanted. And for people that are like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna get fat," whatever, my body didn't change at all. Like, in fact, I got thinner because I was reducing inflammation. So, I had this fear that if I wasn't doing the intense workouts I used to do, that I would, like, suddenly gain all this weight. In fact, the complete opposite happened. My body could repair and rest in a way that it couldn't before, and I maintained weight loss because I wasn't overtaxing the system. So, as mentioned, some of the things that I did that you might find helpful where I started walking. Again, there was a point where I couldn't even walk a mile. So I had to stop even just that for a little while to kind of let my body recalibrate. But walking, especially in nature, is really, really, really healing. It's very different walking a block in a city where you're exposed to oxidative stress from the air toxins, from all the stuff around you, or glyphosate from the golf courses or whatever, versus like walking in a field somewhere or walking on a nature path. If you have access to state or like county parks, get out there and walk there, because your body's really going to find a lot of healing and restoration in those environments. Um, and walking does help, move your lymph fluid around, right? Our lymph system doesn't have a pump like our vessels do. So we need like movement, walking, rebounding, different things to kind of help that lymph flow, which also helps us detoxify. And that also reduces our cortisol. Again, if we're not in a very stressed state and we're not doing very hard walks, it's going to regulate your cortisol, also help with your blood sugar, your blood pressure, your mood. So those are a great thing to do. And again, if you're someone like me and you're like, "Oh my God, I hate walking," I get it. Bring with a podcast, go in nature, try to be mindful. I had to train myself to enjoy it. And now I really do. I look forward to my walks, and I'll sometimes do walks for a couple hours and I love it. Like it's super fun now. So I had to really train myself that that was what my body needed. And that just because I wasn't running doesn't mean walking's not helping and it's not fun. So the other thing I like is I'm a huge fan of rebounding. So it's just basically like using a little trampoline, and I'll just jump for 5 to 10 minutes. And it's kind of a low impact, thing where people that have joint issues, or, if you're a female who has a prolapsed organ, rebounding can be really gentle. You just have to kind of make it work for you. So I just kind of do a gentle bouncing back and forth. And I'll, like, if you're on watching the video, you can see me, I'm kind of like shaking my hands and arms and kind of just moving my system so that, again, I'm moving the lymph flow through my body, getting that movement in, and then just kind of, again, circulating all that good stuff throughout. One thing I'm not as good at that you are is yoga. I'm still learning to like yoga, but yoga is a fantastic way to also still gain some muscle because you're holding some of the poses for a while. but you're also teaching yourself discipline and mindfulness. As you're kind of in these states, you're focused on where your placement of your legs are, your arms, whatever. Um, your breath, exactly. So you're really kind of doing a lot of intentional work when you do yoga. And there's different kinds. I used to love the hot yoga with HIIT workouts. That's not what I'm talking about here, guys. That's not what you need. You need more of the restorative, gentle yoga, and you can kind of work yourself, up into maybe more challenging yoga as your body can tolerate it. And then again, I like strength training. So I do a lot of Beachbody on demand stuff, and we'll do strength training there. We kind of built our own home gym after COVID happened, the world shut down. We built our own home gym. So I have weights now and different things. And, strength training, you don't have to max out with every workout. It's just simply kind of challenging your muscles to build and, again, not taxing your body like in the way you would with a HIIT workout. So you're doing maybe 3 sets of 12 with a certain weight, and then you're moving on, or you're increasing your weight, but you're taking adequate breaks. And you want to make sure you're recovering between sets. That's the thing that I also didn't appreciate enough, was like, you want to make sure you can breathe and hold a conversation and catch your breath between sets. Otherwise, you are taxing yourself a little too much. And then just stretching and mobility work, so just like a daily morning stretch, as I mentioned, last episode too, just like opening your chest, kind of just like doing really good stretches on your system can really help the fascia. I mean, there's a freaking business model out there now. There's stretch labs everywhere where people like, well, literally you can pay someone to stretch you, but you could do it yourself, and it doesn't have to be super duper long. So it can just be, something that can help with your mobility and with reduction in pain. And as we get older, we all need that. It's so holding on to your mobility is a really critical thing as we get older. We want to be able to have that into our aging years. And again, move in ways, biggest takeaway, move in ways that support your energy, that not deplete it.
Yeah, it's about paying attention to your body. Just because an influencer goes out there and, you know, gives you a specific workout and tells you this is what will optimize you doesn't make it true. What will optimize you is going to be determined by you. And so if you feel completely, and I've been on that end of feeling completely depleted, especially after getting rhabdo, very depleted after, um, I tell you, that's not helping your system. Move your body in ways that light you up, because that's what it's about. Even if it's dancing, dancing is amazing. A lot of people feel a lot of healing in that. So we want to get synced with the circadian rhythm, because this is what's going to help balance our bodies, keep inflammation at bay. I always joke that I'm solar powered. I love summers.
Mhm.
I love warm, humid weather. I love Florida and I live in the Midwest, but we really are solar powered. Hormones, digestion, immune function, they're all tied to our light cycles. In fact, I learned years ago vitamin D is less like a vitamin and more like a hormone. And we get that from the light. We get that from our sunshine. Yes, we can overdo anything, but this is an important factor of being a human. So we are solar powered to a degree. It's restorative and it's healing. So a disrupted circadian rhythm will automatically bring more inflammation, more weight gain, more gut issues, more mental issues. We're going to, I can tell you on a cloudy day, I don't feel as happy as I do when the sun is shining. It's just the way it is. So I think that sunlight is probably one of the more important factors, and you will make better choices if you find yourself just out in the sun. Notice what's around you, be present. So here are a few ways to get resynced with your rhythm. Again, when you get up, morning sunlight, man, it changes throughout the year, but if you can try to time your wake up time with the sunrise, there's nothing more peaceful. It's very quiet. And if you can kind of catch that and be in the sun for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, even if it's cloudy out, be there when it gets light. It will do something for you. It's a way to start your day. Your body gets this chemical reaction, and I promise you will have a better day for it. It's a habit. Eat your meals during the daylight, because again, this is tied to our digestion. So late night snacking and eating is going to definitely disrupt our gut repair and our blood sugar. Now, again, I do like to sometimes have some like very lean protein, think like egg whites or, egg whites and spinach. Sometimes, depending on what part of the cycle I'm in, I can feel if my body needs it because I can tell that I need something before I sleep or I'm going to be not okay while I sleep. My sleep will be disrupted. So this is where you have to start to get in tune. You can play with it a little bit during your luteal phase of your hormone shift for women. Your luteal phase will sometimes ask you to do that. So you can play with it a little bit and see how you feel. Movement in the morning or early afternoon, not late in the evening. So I love my early morning walks. I get the sunshine, I get the walks. I like my yoga outside. Sometimes, our schedules make it early afternoon. I will say though, if you're going to have dinner, it's great to go for a little walk after dinner. So if that's what your movement, is going to require, that really does help digestion quite a lot. But we want to avoid like those hard workouts later in the day because again, they're going to start to spike things that are going to make rest really hard. And then your wind down rituals after sunset. I wouldn't drink caffeine in the afternoon at all. It gets pretty hard. It's got a 6-hour half-life. So, you're feeling caffeine pretty long after you have it. But avoiding caffeine in the afternoon, dimming your lights, being outdoors, it will all start to shift your sleep time. You're going to start to feel like your body is ready to go to bed, and that's what we're aiming for. And here's the hard part though, if you're somebody who works the night shift, so shift workers, people who stay up late, really, consider the habits, right? I first and foremost believe you are the driver of the car. So if it's really not working for you, maybe consider what else you might be able to do. If this is what you're doing, if you're a night owl, I would start practicing shifting to earlier and earlier. I really would. So if it's just a choice, I like to stay up late. I used to be that person, insomniac, right? And I'd sleep late, be up late. Really think about like moving that a little bit. But if you are a shift worker, things that you can do, consider the red light. Consider having more red light therapy because your sleep times are going to be different. So you're going to have to kind of bake it till you make it kind of a thing with your body. Melatonin microdosing. So there's a lot of different theories about melatonin. Some people megadose. There's been research on that. Some people do small doses. They believe dependency happens. Some people have said, no, it doesn't. You'll have to figure that out for yourself. But melatonin is such a key marker for our rest. And again, I think it's a solution that could work, but I always say go into it with education. Find what's right for you because again, we're doing something at a different time within the rhythm. So grounding practices that definitely support your nervous system reset. If you're having to sleep during the day, you have to figure out like, how do I get myself grounded? And that might be that you have like a meditation track you listen to, you have breath work that you do, or, maybe it's that you do go for a walk and you're wearing your red light glasses outside. I don't know. But you want to try to figure out like what does calm me down because you're in a challenging situation. And again, if it's not working for you, if you're finding your health is suffering, consider your alternatives because we all have alternatives.
Yeah. So if you're someone who's like, okay, this is all great information, but like, how do I do this? What will my day look like? Now, as Jeff said, if you're a night owl, like start to slowly shift your clock back. And this is stuff I talk with clients about all the time who are like, oh my God, I go to bed at midnight or 1 and I have to get up for work at 5 or 6. So it's like, you're not sleeping enough. So, I encourage people to try to reduce their, bring their sleep time back, kind of set their nighttime routine like a half an hour back each week and just kind of do that over the course of a month or two. And you're going to, get that midnight time down to 10 o'clock pretty fast. And even if you lay there and you're not sleeping yet, that's okay. You're training your brain that this is the time that we're in bed. So you're kind of modifying your routine around that. So let's say you're someone that, this is not my exact schedule because I have a geriatric schedule, but for the average person who's not me, this is kind of a routine that's helpful. So I modify mine because I go to bed, by 9, I wake up by 4 or 5 o'clock. So if you're someone who wants to go to bed around 10, you would ideally be waking up around 6 or 7 a.m. And, if possible, get outside right away. Have that sunlight coming within your eyes, so you can kind of set that circadian rhythm for the day. Avoid sunglasses. Sunglasses, I think, are one of the biggest freaking propaganda schemes like ever. They are so terrible for us. Like, yes, now if you live by, like let's say you live in Costa Rica and the sun's blinding and you just need something to protect your vision down there because you're from the north, yes, those are helpful. But for the average person, like sunglasses really mess up your circadian rhythm. So I don't use them like hardly ever, unless I'm somewhere where the water's reflecting back and it's just violently bright for my little blue eyes. So, get that morning sunlight in your eyes to kind of set the stage for your circadian rhythm. And then really, if possible, this is something I'm getting better at, is already start to hydrate with minerals or some kind of restorative like salt water, a little bit of lemon in there. Because mind you, you've gone all night. So you went from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. or so with no hydration. So you're gonna have to rehydrate really quickly. And I'm getting better at doing that as I'm simultaneously drinking coffee. Coffee dehydrates you, but my morning routine is strong and I like it. So, make sure you're also kind of hydrating yourself if you're a coffee drinker in the morning, because coffee does, there's mixed science that's like, it's not dehydrating. Yes, it is. It's a diuretic. It's making you pee a lot more. So you want to also replace that hydration. And then if you're someone who struggles with adrenal issues, you ideally want to be eating something within like 30 minutes to an hour of eating. And a lot of people are like, I'm not hungry. That's a sign of adrenal dysfunction. That's a sign of high cortisol. So begin to just have like a small little protein something. Maybe you have like a breakfast sausage or an egg or something that's got protein. Or if you can do dairy, maybe it's a little bit of yogurt, like or kefir or something like that that kind of has some protein but also nourishment. And so start to get that nourishment in your body. And then, if you're maybe a little hungrier towards 9, maybe around like 8 or 9, you want to have a more full protein packed breakfast. Towards lunch hour, I tend to eat between 11 and 12. So I'll have like a protein rich lunch or something that's nourishing. And I do try to take a break from electronics like throughout my afternoon and day. That's especially new because I realized how much I am like just stuck to screens all the time. And if I'm not on my computer or I'm on my phone checking emails or whatever, so try to take like a screen free break. Lunchtimes are when I typically walk. So you could do a walk around the lunch hour if that works for you after you eat. As Jess said, like it's great for your digestion. It's great for your blood sugar to do a walk right around there. It's not super stimulating because it's the middle of the day still. So it's not going to really impact your sleep. Um, or you could, do a walk a little bit later in the afternoon if you kind of have to break up the day. Maybe do a little breath work or some grounding outside in nature, around 3 or 4. If you're someone like me who picks up, the kids around 4:30, like I try to pack all that stuff in before I get my kids. Cause then it's a whole nother level of like stress when the routine, of them getting home and all that stuff for the nighttime stuff. Again, geriatric, I eat around 5. The average person eats closer to 6. But try to have like a nourishing dinner. And then again, if you can get out for a little bit of a walk or something, great, just to kind of get away from the kitchen, to stop yourself from boredom eating or eating more than you're hungry for. And then ideally again to cease snacking after, unless you know that you need something because you put in a really heavy workout or you're at that part of your cycle where your body's needing a little more caloric, intake, then have a nutrient dense snack. Again, ideally something with protein. You don't want the useless, mindless carbs because those are just going to create that nighttime waking too as your blood sugar is imbalanced. And then again, if your bedtime's around 10, you want to turn off the screens by 8 so that you are not getting all that artificial light messing up your circadian rhythm. And I'm someone where I like to read, so I just read. Now I know some of my like educational books are a little overstimulating, so I try to, kind of mind that if I'm getting a little overstimulated from what I'm reading, but reading, journaling, again, being outside, this time of the year, especially for us northern folk is amazing to be outside if it's not rainy. So just try to like reduce and eliminate this. And this is stuff again, I'm sure this isn't new information, but it's about habit stacking, small little changes. Like what's one thing in your routine that you can begin to change? And then by 10 o'clock, make sure you are in bed, lights out, like you are snuggled up, ready to go. So, from that routine, if there's a few things that you're not doing, you want to do, pick one. Just pick one and implement that over the course of the next few weeks until that's a habit, and then create a new habit in line with that. So it doesn't have to be this overwhelming thing. You and I have done this over the course of, for me, over 5 years, you over 20. And it's just small, sustainable changes. This is not meant to overwhelm people or create this like, I've got to make this checklist of all the things I'm doing and then shame ourselves for not doing them. Like you really got to just take it easy on yourself and just do what you can within your power. Um, And again, if you're a night owl, you know, and you're only getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep, you really got to work on earlying that bedtime. You know, what are you doing? I mean, what the hell are you doing till midnight? Honestly, like you're probably not working. You're probably doom scrolling or on Netflix or something. So stop it. You know, and if you're someone like me who's like, oh my gosh, that's my time away from my kids where I have quiet, calm time, I get it. But you can have that in other pockets of your day too, that are more sustainable for your body than staying up, because I guarantee what you're doing from 10 to midnight is not productive, most likely.
Anchor yourself in your purpose. When we anchor these habits in our purpose, and our purpose might be, I want to be as healthy as I can for as long as I can. I want to feel restored. I want to be able to do things with my children. Maybe it's my grandchildren, whatever it is. Anchor the new habits you want to create in that purpose, because it's going to be very rooted, and you're going to mess up. We all mess up. I find myself messing up, but it's what you do consistently that starts to create your new habit, but it's there when it's in purpose. So I think something helpful to be reminded of here in our closing of this episode is your body isn't fighting you. It really isn't. It's not out to get you. These are all protective things that our body is doing. It is trying to protect us. And if nothing else, it's trying to say, "Hey, I need you to hear me. Something isn't right." So
Mhm.
it's going to do what it's going to do to try to keep you safe. When you live in rhythm with the light and the movement and the rest, you're basically giving that message back to your body saying, "Hey, it's okay. You're safe." And when we're safe, the healing really does become possible. That's why, taking that time away. And I really want to, hit home to just having that meta awareness, like we talk about. It's, can you recognize when you're having a subconscious thought of like, I'm not safe, I'm not safe, I'm not safe. Like what does that look like to you? Can you recognize it? And then can you make a choice based on, safety? Like, what would make me feel safe? What would make my body feel safe? What if I could just lay down right now? What if I could just stop? What if I could breathe? Would that make me calm? Would that make me feel safer? 9 times out of 10, that's exactly it. So remember, your body is just working with you. So work back with it. And we appreciate you tuning into this episode. Everybody get some sleep, and we will see you next time.
See ya.